The Hangout on air is live. I think we're live. All right. Flex those muscles. Let's get stretching. Let's get the oxygen flowing through our bodies so that we can wake up and feel alive. And, of course, caffeine is always a help. Did you guys see the image I posted, what we're going to give away today?
Yes.
No.
Okay, just so we're clear, we're not really giving one of those away.
Seth, got me all excited.
I lied. No intravenous caffeine today.
You know they can do that.
You have to take it orally.
But you know what? They can do that. I had surgery one time. You know how you're not allowed to eat or drink after midnight? And, you know, it's 7 a.m. and I'm like, I want caffeine. He said, I'll give you caffeine. He put it right in my IV. And I'm like,
oh, that's great.
Great.
And it worked?
Oh, hell yeah.
At that point, you should have just asked for, like, you know, some amphetamines.
Well, I'm sure that came right after that. But
Yes, Bruce, I really did say that.
I guess I should turn on my chat and see. Good morning, Bruce.
Good morning, Sarah. How are you?
I'm busy, lovely.
So I made notes on your books that you mentioned last week. I want to know why you think these are such fantastic books for startups.
Because she read them and found it to be so?
Well, there's some good stuff in there.
No, that's more in depth, please.
Well, you want me to look at my stickies? Hold on.
I'm just curious why you think they're great for startup people.
Have you read any of them, Bruce?
Not
or
yet.
Are you curious?
I just heard about them this morning.
Okay. Well, the intentional accountant, by the way, I'm so excited because I tweeted it out there this week because then somebody else mentioned the intentional accountant this week. So I tweeted it out there and asked Darren Root if I could get a signed copy. And so he said, give me your address. I'm sending one right away. And then I said, well, I don't want to push my luck, but what about getting you on one of our Friday morning hangouts? So he said, today was no good, but I think next Friday I might be able to get him on here.
That's nice. It's nice reading about other people's experiences that have been in the business a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these experiences, sometimes it takes us years to finally get the hang of it. So if you're a startup, you might find out that, you know, maybe I shouldn't be doing this.
I've read bits and pieces of The Intentional Accountant, you know, just picking it up when I was in somebody else's office and whatnot. And what I found from what little bit I've sort of captured of it is that it seems to address a lot of people like us, where we're running our own small practices and we're doing pretty much everything ourselves. Right. And he seems to talk about how you can't do that if you want to grow. One piece that I read was where he's talking about how, and by he I mean Darren Root, the author of The Intentional Accountant, where he's talking about how he's a father and he's getting involved in like Little League and, you know, extracurricular activities for his kids, and, you know, you have to be prepared to be able to balance and enjoy those parts of life and not just be working all the time. Mm-hmm. And so it's a book I look forward to reading myself for sure, because I know that I need to learn more of what he's talking about. And a lot of it may not even be as much learning. Here we go with the quotes again. Learning, quote unquote. This is a pickup from last week. Before we went live last week, I was making fun of like when people do that, and then I started doing it, right, Tina?
And you just can't stop.
Now I just can't stop. I'm gonna go into downtown Burbank after we finish this broadcast, and I'm gonna just start walking around going like this. I'm gonna go up to people. I'm gonna go, hello.
You'll fit right in.
You'll see me on like the 11 o'clock news.
I didn't know there was a downtown Burbank.
There is, of course there is. Beautiful downtown Burbank. Johnny Carson talked about it for years.
Oh,
the
okay.
E-Myth accountant's really good because why most accounting practices don't work and what to do about it. And it gets into systems and goals and, you know, it's
the whole thing.
Not being afraid of change, and if something isn't working, change it.
Well, I love it when people recommend that somebody read a book, but tell me why I need to read it.
They're quick reads. It's not like it's War and Peace. Come on, guys. I mean, by the time you contact me to find out, you could have read the thing.
Bruce,
I like the books.
It's probably not as exciting as the IRS regs that you've got sitting on your bookshelf.
Right.
Yeah, that's great reading.
Yeah.
Bruce,
For you.
Bruce just doesn't want to tell us that he secretly doesn't want to have to break away from reading 50 Shades of Grey before the movie
I've read
comes
it
out.
twice.
Oh, that's sad.
So
Oh,
men are
that's
not supposed to
bad.
admit to reading that book. I actually can say I haven't read it.
No, I'm not going to read it. Sorry.
So, but yeah, so I'm excited to read Darren Root's book. The E-Myth books I keep hearing about, so I'll probably have to add those to my list. I hope that all of you have read Think and Grow Rich by now, and the other book that's on my reading list that I'm sort of in the middle of, but it's more of a long-term study project for me than it is just reading a book, is a book called The 1 Minute Millionaire. It's by Mark Victor Hansen and Robert Allen. I believe they wrote it together, but you'll see Robert Allen primarily on the book with the credits. And it's not about how to make $1 million in a minute. It's not. It's more about how to learn to think like a millionaire 1 minute at a time. How to learn how millionaires think, and how one of the things that really got me to sort of slow down reading this book and turn it into more of a long-term project, where I'm really studying it and taking pieces of it and figuring out how to sort of plug them into my life, is that it talks about the 6 major areas of our life. And I've got this actually now mapped out in my brain. You all know when I say my brain, you know what I'm referring to, the product I use called the Brain. And so I've got the 6 areas laid out, and I'm starting to really, use things like, then you have, what we call the power of intention, which I think is Wayne Dyer, isn't it? Isn't he the one that talks about the power of intention?
Right.
So I've got this area in my brain now based on the 1 Minute Millionaire, and I'm thinking in terms of the concepts of the power of intention, which I think probably has a lot of tie-ins to what Darren Root's talking about when he talks about the quote-unquote intentional accountant.
Again with the quotes.
I know. Now I'm going to throw them in there every chance I get. But
Your arms get tired.
so to my dentist, I need to work out more. That's why we flex in the morning. But so the idea is, if I want to accomplish something, I have to have the intention of accomplishing it, which means I have to put it out there. And, a great example of this was those of you who kind of hang out with me on Facebook might have seen that I put something out there yesterday saying that, I'm going to make a commitment to make $500,000 in the next 11 months. And that came from a conversation I was having with a friend of mine online, and I was sort of joking around saying, if I could make $500,000 in the next 11 months, I'm going to take a month off. And then my friend
Awesome.
Carrie, actually, she's funny. She chimed in on that, and she says, I believe you can make the $500,000, but I don't believe you'll take a month off.
I agree with her.
Yeah.
I agree with you. You might take a week off, and then that's it. You're done. You'll be back online. You just
Yeah.
can't.
I'd like to see that.
I didn't say I was not going to go online. I said I was taking a month off.
Ralphie would like you to take a month off.
Take a month off of what?
No, Ralphie will hate it because I'll probably go visiting my parents in Florida for a week, and so I won't be around.
Hey,
But,
if you're on this side of the country,
Absolutely.
And Bruce is correct. Take a month off of what?
Yeah, well, off
What
of
do you
working.
consider work? What do you
off of
consider?
billable work versus.
To be specific, I would take a month off from, I wouldn't do any one-on-one private trainings for a month. I wouldn't do any of the consulting work that I do for a month. I would just,
Billable.
yeah, the direct billable stuff.
Okay,
Yep.
but you're still doing your hangouts. You're not giving them up for that month.
Never. I would never miss a hangout.
Yeah.
I
don't think you sleep. I don't believe that you even sleep.
I could have pneumonia. Well, that's why I'm giving away one of those intravenous coffee machines so that I can get one myself.
So, Seth, what are the 6 areas? Because I kind of think of things as work and non-work related and kind of categorize things inside of those 2 buckets.
Which is so interesting that you brought that up, because it actually encompasses, I think, a perfect balance between personal and work into these 6 areas. So you know what? I'll share my screen with you, and I'll show you. I will show you,
But
mate.
we need a quote first.
Nope, too late. I already turned my screen sharing on.
Oh, here's the quote. Wow.
Brain.
So here it is. I'll click on my thumbnail so that it stays live for the recording. So these are the 6 major areas, and they are in order of importance. So number 1 is body, your health, right? Because if you don't have that, and there's your balance, there's your personal life right off the bat. That's the first thing that's the most important. And it's funny because since I started laying this out and putting things in this order, I can swear to you I've been on the treadmill more because I've been more focused on it and more conscious of it, more intentional about saying this has to be priority number 1 every single day. So in a perfect world, every day the first thing I do is something for my body or my health. So I'd get up and go to the gym and work out, or I'll get up and go, get on the treadmill. We have a treadmill in the house. I have no excuse. And yet this past week I haven't been on it once because I've been too tired. But last week I had been on it 3 times. So the trend overall is that I'm doing it more and more often, which is obviously good. My wife and I have been going to Griffith Park, which is a beautiful park right near here, on Friday evenings. And not only has that been fun, not only has it meant more time with her, but it's exercise because we're walking up a steep hill, to get to the top where the observatory is, and we're on our feet walking around active instead of sitting at the computer all day, which is what I otherwise would be doing all the time. So it's so important to Sarah says mount your tablet on the treadmill or exercise bike. See, the thing is, I can't read because if I'm moving around and bouncing on the treadmill, I don't know how people read books. I don't know how they, like when I'm on the treadmill or exercising, I have my headset on. I have Spotify cranked.
Yeah, I listen to TED Talks.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, I can't read either. I was trying to do Pinterest because I knew that my husband said if I got on Pinterest, I'd ride my bike to Atlanta and not know it. But you're right. When you're bouncing around, you can't.
I would get a headache trying to read that way. I don't know how people do it, but they do. So number 1 is the body. Number 2 is the brain, right? So we have to be working on our minds all the time. We always have to be learning something. So, on the body, by the way, when I click on this, I have a sub-thought here, and over here I have the description for the notes for the body. Your physical goals. What are your physical goals? Where do you want to be physically? Do you want to, in my case, for years now, I've been borderline diabetic. My doctor keeps warning me. So one of my goals is to, reverse that process, to drop the extra weight and get more healthy and not be in danger of, getting diabetes. So then further down here, I've got health and medical, which is just a general category. Then I've got Kaiser is where I have my health insurance. So I put things in context, sort of where they belong, right? And then and then I can dig deeper and deeper into this. So that's the body. Then we have the brain, where when I click on that, what we have here is here's where I've earmarked stuff that I want to read. Okay, and interestingly enough, there's something in my travels as I'm starting to explore. What do I want to read? What do I want to learn about? Have you all seen the movie Limitless?
No.
All right, watch the movie Limitless. It's with Bradley Cooper.
Bradley Cooper, yeah.
And it's such a good movie. It's about basically they come up with a drug that when you take it, it makes your focus so intense, your ability to focus, that you become aware of everything and you don't miss a single detail. And so he goes from being like a total lazy slacker to being this brilliant guy who starts making all this money on Wall Street and all this other stuff. And I discovered that there is actually, say, an area within the pharmaceutical industry that has these kind of drugs. And I think I posted on Facebook when I had found this, asking people, would you want to take a drug like this? Now, I'll be very clear.
Not necessarily. I think that there are places I don't want all that information.
Well, and I was just about to say, I want to be very clear about this, especially while we're being recorded live. I would not take a drug like this, but it still intrigues me that this kind of thing exists, that people are studying this, this area, because what it tells me is that with or without the drugs, it's possible. The potential is there within our brains to tap into without the drugs to be able to bring about this kind of intense focus and, an ability to really kind of achieve whatever we want to. And I really believe in that stuff. So what I've been doing, instead of taking the drugs, is focusing on that power of intention and thinking, okay, every day one of the first things I do when I wake up is ask, and you can fill in the blank I'm going to lay out here with a lot of different things. You can call it God, the universe, the sunlight of the spirit, whatever you want to call it. But I ask that power that I believe exists within each and every one of us to help me achieve that kind of focus so that I can accomplish whatever I want to. So I approach it from a more spiritual side than an actual pharmaceutical side. And so going back to the second area, the brain, these are things that I've kind of earmarked for myself. Mind, body, green. This is something my wife actually turned me on to. If you go onto Facebook and like their page, you'll get to their site. They have so much great content about health and overall balance. It's one of the coolest sites I've seen in a long time for content. And believe me, it takes a lot to get me to sort of follow something new because I'm so inundated with stuff. But this is one of the most recent additions to my world of my brain and the kinds of things I want to learn more about and improve with respect to. The number 3 actually is the being part, which is the spiritual part. So over here I have my personal blog because that's where I write about that part of my life. And then I have meditation where I've actually identified a YouTube channel that I found that has great relaxing meditation music. And this is something that I want to bring into my daily practice, is more meditation, to achieve that kind of balance in my life. Time. So with time, that refers to your organizational goals. How are you getting organized? And I don't have much on here yet because I feel like I'm pretty good with organizing. It's just more a matter of me focusing on the other 5 parts so that I can use what I already have pretty good skills with in terms of time management and start applying that to these other areas. Then there's people, and you'll see I have kind of major categories here. I have our weekly hangout right here. These are the people, frankly, who are important to me in my life that I'm beginning to identify that I want to make sure I focus on. Power of intention, really focusing on keeping myself surrounded with the people I love and keeping out the people who are toxic, right? Because that's part of it too. Is I don't want toxic people in my life. I love when I see these sort of memes that people post about, how the people you want to be surrounded by are the people who support you, who encourage you, who lift you up, who raise you up. The people who drag you down, I want no part of. And toxic clients too. That's right, Sarah.
Yeah,
The pumpkin plan.
So important.
I just had that. Oh, yes.
Now, then the last one, and notably of least importance, is the money part. And if you think about it, it makes sense. If I don't have the first 5 things in place, the money's worthless to me. There's this thing that goes around the internet that I don't know if it's real or not, but supposedly it's a quote from the Dalai Lama where he was asked what he finds most fascinating about people, and he says something like, he finds it fascinating that we spend all our lives working really hard to make and save all this money, and then we spend the end of our lives spending all that money to improve our health, something like that, and we ignore our health along the way while we're making the money. So that's like kind of balancing number 1 with number 6. So that's
Can't take it with you.
Yep. So that's that's quickly. I know it's off topic from what we were talking about discussing today, but I think it's important, and it does tie in. So Gina, do you see how it kind of brings in to the picture everything, both personal and business?
Absolutely. And that thing about the body, I believe that you are absolutely correct. It should be number 1.
Mm-hmm. It has to be. It's so important. I mean, my wife is, and God bless her, she reminds me on almost a daily basis how important it is, and she reminds me of why it's so important to her. She wants me around. It's because she loves me.
So, and Ralphie, too.
And Ralphie, too.
I want you around
nothing
too,
else will be.
So you guys are going to make me cry.
Oh. What would we
So
do without our Seth?
I
So
know.
that goes to the reading list, and you know what? That probably is something else I should be adding to this outline, is going to the core topic here now and diving right in. We're talking about how to build and grow your accounting and bookkeeping practice, and one of the first things probably should go into that second area that I just referenced, where you should have a reading list. You should have a list of things that you are reading that are aimed at helping you build and grow your life, and I mean life. I mean the whole.
Read on Kindle so that I can take that Kindle wherever I am, and all those times that I'm sitting there waiting for whatever, I can just pick up my Kindle and continue with what I'm reading.
Yep. That's awesome.
And I have a Nook. Actually, here's the funny thing. My wife bought me the Nook a few years ago because she saw me looking at it online and she saw that I was really interested in it. And I liked the Nook better than the Kindle at that time because at that time the Nook was color, the Kindle didn't have the color option.
Right.
And I hated the idea of those sort of drab looking. I know they made it to make it look like a real page in a real book, but I just found it so like almost depressing to look at. So I need color in my life. But that's just me because I'm a techno geek. So, but yeah, I think it's so huge that we have the ability. We can carry literally a humongous library in our pocket practically, right? And now I've got my Nook app and my Kindle app. I had bought some books for the Kindle on my phone, and I have the app on my desktop computer. So you can install these apps, so there's no excuse. You can access this stuff from anywhere. I can sit in my bed and read for an hour at night before I doze off using my Nook app on my phone if I want to. So that's important, and we probably should add in a reading list area to this outline. But going back to the outline, if you remember, and I'll just quickly recap what we had sort of covered last week, was, and I hope everybody's got their About.me page ready. Sarah, did you change the picture?
Change the picture.
On your About.me page.
Crazy picture that they gave you.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think Sarah did her homework. She was going to be spending the rest of last Friday on it.
It really, I played with it for about 15 minutes and went, well, I guess it's done.
I did mine.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, it's not.
I had most of it done while we were doing the hangout. I mean, it was that.
Okay.
So that was your
There's a whole lot to do
That's
there.
awesome.
Now I can't remember how to get back into it. How do you get into it?
Just go to About.me and it'll find you. So going back, the question was raised, and where this all started was in our ABO group on Facebook, and ABO is Accountants, Bookkeepers, and Business Owners, for those who don't know. Several people asked the same basic question. I've just moved. I need to rebuild my practice. How do I do it? Right? I'm, sort of recapping it. In a nutshell, that was the question. And as I mentioned last week, my first thought was, why do you have to rebuild just because you're moving, right? You should be able to take your business with you everywhere you go, especially with the technology we have today. So the first thing, based on that I included in the outline, was the remote software that's available to us that we can use to access our clients' stuff remotely. Now, Brandon, who's with us today, good morning, Brandon, mentioned to me before we went live that he's doing a lot more IT stuff. Brandon, are you doing this kind of stuff, helping your clients, sort of get up to speed with respect to this kind of remote software access?
He's talking. We can't hear him.
He's talking, but we can't hear him. Unmute.
Hello.
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 By the way, I signed up for Sleater conference yesterday. I told you, Seth, but not everybody on the call.
Yes, congratulations, Tim. That's
Oh,
exciting.
missed you this year.
All right, so we'll wait for Brennan to get his audio going. But in the meantime, we talked about Join.me, which is free, so it's a great place to start. Get your first client. You can use Join.me to access their computer. I believe now you can even flip it around in terms of who's sharing. Initially, the first time I played with it, you can only do it one way. Like if I hosted the meeting, I could share my screen, but I couldn't flip that around. I believe you can flip that around now and have the other person share. You can't record with the free version. I think their paid version now even gives you the ability to record. So Join.me is getting up to speed. That's a Citrix product.
I use it all the time.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
When I have clients, it's funny, when I have clients who are for some reason having trouble accessing my Adobe Connect, which is the next one on my list, sometimes I'll use Join.me because it's so quick and easy to get access to their screen so I can get them on my Adobe Connect. So it's kind of funny how I use one tool to help me with the other one. Then there's Adobe Connect, which I mentioned last week. That's what I use. I switched years ago from GoToWebinar to this. Both record the session, both deliver a recording, but I liked Adobe Connect better because its recording format is one that lives on the web, on the Adobe servers. There's no limit to bandwidth. There's no limit to the amount of data you can store with the Adobe Connect plan. Downside to Adobe Connect, very expensive. It cost me $1,500 a year, and that's because they kind of force a 3-user license on you at a minimum, and it's $500 per user. So the good news is now I have actually 2 people who provide one-on-one trainings when I'm too booked up. So I'm using all 3 licenses now, and it's generating revenue. So to me, I mentioned last time years ago when I switched to this, I put the $1,500. Actually, it was $3,000 the first year because I had to pay like a $1,500 setup charge. So I put the whole $3,000 on my credit card, but within a year it had paid for the $3,000 and then some. Over and over and over again.
Have you heard of also 8x8?
No.
Okay. I'll send you information on that. I've heard about another one too.
Okay, and I mentioned last week that this is by no means exhaustive. This is just kind of the first solutions that came to the top of my head that I think of, right away. So there's definitely many more solutions out there. Now, one thing I encourage you all to do, and somebody asked me, I think, before we went live this morning, Bruce asked me if I'm going to make this outline available. I am, but not right away, because A, it's still evolving, and B, I'm going to do a full-fledged course based on this in schoolofbookkeeping.com, where I'm going to do kind of a deep dive into each of these tools and things to teach people how to use them and how they can help them work with their clients. But if you go to the Citrix website, and it's really citrix.com/product/small-business. If you go there, Citrix has probably, among all the companies, the most impressive suite of collaboration tools. So definitely check that out. They have a reseller program, too, which I've now signed up for, so that if you do refer people, you can get credit for having referred them, and they pay you a nice little commission for that. So definitely, if you're a bookkeeper or an accountant building a practice, you have to partner with Citrix, in my opinion. It's great stuff. And they have a hosting solution now that I've seen, too, that's really nice for hosting your QuickBooks file. Then I mentioned, and I think Sarah looked at this and thought she had to look twice, Google Helpouts. This is newer. There's another site that's similar in concept to this called Live Ninja, which I didn't put here, but I might as well add that in. These sites are designed to, and I think that's just liveninja.com. So these are sites that are designed to allow you to remotely access people and charge for it. Right, and they have the payment infrastructure built right in. So, and if you do it free, then it costs you nothing. But if you charge people for it, then, like, I think Live Ninja takes 25% of whatever you're charging as their cut. And they have a complete integrated calendar system, so people can go on, they can see when you're available, they can choose an appointment, they have to pay for it, and this way. So if you can't afford Adobe Connect right now, which a lot of people can't, then Google Helpouts, Live Ninja are great solutions for this sort of thing, where again you can take appointments and charge for them.
You know what you're missing for collaborative products? Smart Sheets.
Yeah, I know. You know what? I'm glad you mentioned that. Let's add that in right now. Well, although that kind of comes in under project management, so I did have it further down. So that's coming up in a different area. So I didn't forget Smart Sheet. Okay. Okay, so then we have the cloud storage and collaboration products, right? And we talked about this in pretty good detail last time. ShareFile and SmartVault are at the top because they're at the highest level in terms of security, as far as I understand it. And SmartVault, as we all know, lets you attach documents seamlessly into QuickBooks, whether it be to a transaction or to a customer or vendor. SmartVault is amazing. SmartVault also has an affiliate program, which if you're going to use it and start recommending it, you may as well get paid for that. These are all things. I mean, I love affiliate programs. You're never going to make a living off of them, although as soon as I say that, I think maybe I shouldn't say that because some people actually do. But I think the caveat here, the most important thing to point out is that you don't recommend the product because they have an affiliate program. You fall in love with the product first, and because you're recommending it, then you find out if they have an affiliate program, because as long as you're recommending it and you love it that much, you might as well get a little, something extra for doing so.
Then somebody help you get your limit.
So you're 500,000.
Yeah.
That's right. And it's what do you call it? Often you'll get the product for free just because you become an affiliate or a reseller. But be careful, because some of these people are getting sort of wise to the fact that people are joining the reseller programs just to get the product for free. So oftentimes there'll be a quota that you'll have to meet in order to get the product for free, which should be fine. It should be fine with you, because your intention should be to tell as many people as you can about it because you love it so much and you're going to use it. So, again, always check out the reseller or affiliate program for these kinds of things. I've got Evernote on here. Anybody who knows me knows I couldn't live without Evernote. My whole life is in Evernote, it feels like at times. I could add the brain in here. The reason I didn't is because as many times and as many videos as I've done on the brain, for some reason I find it's hard to get other people to kind of buy into the brain for some reason. I love the product. I think it's an amazing product. But other people don't seem to dive into it. Everybody looks at it always and says, oh my God, that's so cool. But then nobody seems to sort of bite, if you know what I mean.
I think it's an issue of time. I think, you can't really do it in 5 minutes or 10 minutes. You have to sit down and focus on what you're doing.
That's true. That's true. But you guys saw just a great example of how one way in which I use the brain. When I showed you the 6 areas, and it's a great way to organize stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of as much as we had gotten through last week. I wanted to recap that stuff because I think it's all really important. If you're going to build an accounting or bookkeeping practice in this day and age, you've got to have this down so that you can move anywhere and it won't ever affect your business again. You should never lose business just because you've moved, right? We've got the tools in place and the technology that allow us to create a business around doing things from anywhere in the world as long as you've got an internet connection. I mean, one of the things that my parents get so excited about when I go to visit them in Florida is I'll usually do a few one-on-one sessions while I'm there at their house. And my mother gets so excited, she thinks it's so cool that I can work from anywhere and do these sessions.
When I was in Hawaii in April, I worked from there.
You worked from my mother's house when you were in Hawaii?
Yes, I could add another comment, but it would be wildly inappropriate.
What the hell, Tim?
Not gonna go there. It's better.
Yeah, I'm not touching that one either.
Oh,
it's better
then.
Reference pinpoint.
Well, Tim, you weren't on with us before we went live. It went much further into the gutter than where you were thinking, I'm sure.
Oh.
You can tell we're on print, people.
Darn it, I missed it.
So
I just got the invitation this morning on the Google Hangout. Did you send one, or did I click it?
I did, and I had a similar glitch that I often have where it gives me like a network error, and then I had to refresh it, and that's when I started posting the link in the event group page thing. So,
yeah, that's what I had to do this morning, the link. And Larry,
it takes a little longer, yeah. It takes a little longer.
I had no problem getting on. I just used that link that you had posted on the School of Bookkeeping.
Right. Okay. Now, Dennis posted in the chat, by the way, if you want to save money on getting services, Fiverr.com. A lot of people use this site. To be honest, it scares me to pay $5 for somebody to provide a service for me. Dennis, have you actually used it? And had
I was on a marketing webinar yesterday with another group I belong to, and they've used it, and they've had kind of mixed success. Some have had really good luck. Some have had kind of like you get what you pay for, but it's it was primarily for tax practice, people, kind of like a virtual assistant or whatever. Some people use it as a way of kind of like a loss leader to sell other of their products. I have not used it myself, but the people that were on the call, most of them seem to like it.
Gotcha.
Brandon says he's used it multiple times with mixed reviews.
Yeah, that was kind of the gist of it.
Yeah, the idea of paying $5 for somebody to provide a service, especially the level of services that I'm providing, scares me. So that's why I've stayed away from Fiverr.
I've only used it for graphics and flyers, logos, things like that.
Yeah, that kind of.
Yeah, stuff like that is probably fine for. Okay, so moving along. So now the next area that I have, and believe me, this could be expanded on so much more than I have, but make sure your web presence is significant. And we started with About.me. And people, I think, last week kind of honed in on the fact that I had About.me first, and I think that surprised some people. But the reason I have it there and have it first is that is my example of the home base for everything that I've got going on online. And if you remember from last week, I showed you my page, and I'll bring it up again. I thought it was kind of funny to refer to this as, where you can go to find all of the rings in my online circus. Right, so now I want everybody to show your About.me pages. Let's see who did their homework. I know Bruce did.
Yeah, Ray,
Mine
stop
up.
reading.
I've had mine for a while, but fixed
I
it up
forgot.
the other day.
All right, so Bruce has got his going on. He's written a nice amount of copy there, and he's got the links to his social networks down below. Terrific.
You put a link on your homepage, on your webpage for about.me, like in
I did.
About Us. I think.
I think I might have put it in my community, but mostly the way I look at it is it's designed to go the other way. It's designed to take people from the About.me page over to my various websites. So,
But, I mean, how do people find about.me? I mean, I never knew about it.
because that's, well, they find it by like the same way that you did ultimately hear about it, you know, through other people who are using it. But mainly I use it, as I mentioned last week, as my online business card, right? And I put the link on my business card so that this way, when I give it to people and they're looking for me, I don't have to worry about reprinting my business cards because I've changed or added information, and then everything is here on the About.me page. So mainly people are going to find out about it because I've told them, here's where you go to find out how to get in touch with me, right? So, of course, I have, you know, and as I mentioned last week, when I discovered recently that they've added the ability to include videos, I said, oh, my God, this is perfect, right? So, and it's great that it's the first thing you see. And, you know, for somebody like me, it's perfect because it's like it tells you the very first thing you see, it kind of clues you into what I'm all about, which is, you know, I'm all about video.
Ralphie.
I'm all about Ralphie. Him, too. Yesterday on QBO Chat, got to give a mention to QBO Chat, which is the chat on Twitter that goes on once a week. What was it? Austin from Avalera, who, by the way, Gina, you're having them on today, right?
Yes, I am.
Avalera is
Yes, I
going to
am.
be on Gina's Hangout later today, 2:30 Pacific, 5:30 Eastern. If you have, or your clients have struggles with sales tax, then you have to check out Avalera, no question. So,
Absolutely.
that's my little. Avalera is not an official sponsor yet, but maybe they'll become one now because I just gave them their first plug. No, but in all seriousness, it's absolutely you know, my belief that if you have even remotely complicated sales tax issues, you have to use Avalera. It just takes all the headaches away. They do the sales tax returns. They do all the calculations. Everything is done for you. All you have to do is take the little AVA tax, sales tax item in QuickBooks and use it. And then everything else is done. So
Well, that's going to be a growth area, isn't it, with this pending legislation on sales tax, national legislation?
what was that, Dennis? I missed.
Isn't that going to be a pending or a emerging or a growth area because of the pending legislation on sales tax, national sales tax?
I'm sure. I mean, just I don't know that much about, you know, the sort of political or legal side of it. I just know that in general, if you have sales tax problems, Avalera solves them all. So, and I don't think anybody else does that. You know, if there's nobody else out there doing what they do.
Do you have an example of like a complex sales tax thing? Obviously,
Multiple states.
Yeah, as soon as you're in multiple states, or as soon as it becomes unclear, you know, or multiple districts in the state of California, Tim. If I have customers all over the state of California, there can be 16 different districts, each of which has a small component that makes up the 9.75% that I'm charging for sales tax. And it's you know, most people are doing their sales tax returns wrong, which means most people are potentially going to get in a lot of trouble if they get audited by the State Board of Equalization. Bottom line is, I would guarantee you, if you had a close look at any of your clients who do file sales taxes, I bet you 90%, if not 100% of them, are done wrong. I could almost
We found one in
guarantee it.
South Carolina where the county changes on one side of the street or the other.
Yep.
And just having their address, if you don't, you know, so they're guessing. And it's just, to do a tax return to that level, and if we had more than, I mean, it would be a nightmare to do sales tax returns. They've got to come up with some national, easier way to report to one location, and then, I don't know. But until then, we have to do it by the ship-to date, or address.
And so there goes a perfect example of our group-level ADD.
Yes.
What?
About me.
What?
I want to about me. About me.
So, about me, this is where you create your home base and you give people the links to everything they need to know. Look, I even recently, this week, I updated it and I included the link to my Intuit VIP profile right here. Now, I wish they let you customize the text that shows up here. They don't.
Yeah,
You just drop the link in and it does it for you, but maybe that'll change someday. But
God, you're everywhere.
So, yeah, this is everything.
How'd you get VIP?
He's everywhere.
They sent me an invite over a year ago. They sent me an invite to come to their VIP summit at their headquarters, and I suspect it's mainly because of all the videos that I do and everything else that I do on the web. So
because he's everywhere. One of the top influencers in our industry.
Yes, the top 40 global influencers is how they kind of define it. So I guess they feel I have some influence in the community. I don't know. I just like to refer to myself as an idiot with a webcam and a microphone.
And Ralphie.
And a Ralphie. I have a Ralphie. Oh, that's what brought up Avalara. Thank you for reminding me. So Austin from Avalara was in QBO chat, and he made a comment to me saying that he knew that he owed me a phone call, and I wrote back saying, "And there I thought you didn't love me anymore." And he wrote back saying, "Seth, you have a picture with a puppy. Everybody loves you."
Oh, that's true.
So anyway, so that's about.me, and like I said, I put it first and foremost because it's a way to create a home base where you can tell everybody, because I've often been asked the question, Seth, you have so much stuff on the web, is there any one place I can go to see where it all is? And I say, yeah, go to my about.me page. It's all right
Google
there.
Seth David, it'll all come up.
Yeah, except that then there's some there's another guy he's a writer and like a motivational speaker, Seth David Schoen or something, who comes up on that. But it literally took me a couple of years, but I finally outrank him now on Google. You just have to be incessant at pushing content out there. That's the key to success these days.
Obsessed, as Yvette says.
Yeah, and as we talked about that last week, about being obsessed with meeting and reaching your goals, which means you have to be looking at them, thinking about them, and reading them out loud every single day. So next is your website. And, of course, this is key to your web presence. It's your online resume. When people come to your website, you have maybe 10 seconds to grab their attention, if not less, and make them want to stay and read on longer. If your website looks like crap, you're going to lose people. You're going to lose potential customers, which means you're leaving money on the table, right? So, and of course, having a website is not enough on its own. You have to make sure people are getting to it, which means there's all kinds of other things you need to do, such as social media. Now, social media, of course, is primarily what I use to drive traffic to my websites. And then what I learned was I don't even care if they get to my website or not. So I put out videos and I give out the phone number and I say, call me, right? So when you're putting content out there and you're building your web presence, you have to know what your call to action is, right? So if you're rebuilding a bookkeeping or accounting practice, you have to think, what do I want people to do? And I've talked about this many times when I talked about when I gave my social media talks at the Sleater conference the last couple of years. I focused on this quite a bit, that you have to have that call to action, and it's not the same for everybody. And I always like to tell the story that when I came up with mine, it was based on the fact that I'd hired an internet marketing consultant who asked me the question, "What's your call to action?" And he said, "What do you want people to do?" I said, "Well, I want them to hire me." He says, "No, that's not good enough. You need to be more specific. What action do you want them to take after, for example, they're done watching one of your videos?" And I said, well, I want them to call me. I want them to get on the phone because I know that when they hear the excitement in my voice and they hear my enthusiasm for what I do, that in itself is going to be a selling point, and it's going to be a strong one. So I want to get people on the phone with me so they can hear how excited I genuinely am at what I do. And that's going to go a long way to convincing them that I'm the right person to help them with whatever problem they're calling me to solve, right? If you're not excited about what you're doing, it's not going to inspire a lot of confidence in people that you can help them. Conversely, if you're very excited about what you're doing, like I am, it's not going to take much effort at all. There you go. Bruce forgot his cape this morning, his tax cape. So your social media is really important, and like I said, I could expand. The problem is this area is potentially so robust that I didn't bother to go into a lot of detail for today's purpose because there's way too much to cover. But I do want to stress and highlight that this is so important, especially if we're talking about building an accounting or bookkeeping practice around the current technology like we discussed in the previous sections, as far as making sure that you never have to worry about losing a client, right? But just because you moved. There's no reason for that. You should never have to lose clients just because you moved. Now we're going to get into what we didn't get to at all last week. So, and this came up a lot because if you guys remember when we were going around the horn last week, here were some of the things that came up. We have time, money, and energy. Dennis brought that up. Right? We have the freedom. I think Yvette talked about that. The freedom of, just having, and that's the reason you go into business for yourself. You don't go into business for yourself to make more money. I can climb the corporate ladder and make more money. So that's not a reason to go into business for myself. And frankly, if that's your only reason for going into business for yourself, you're probably going to burn out and go back to working somewhere full time. That's my opinion. It's also my experience. So we do it for the freedom. That's the whole reason we go into business for ourselves, is we want that freedom to say what I do, when I do it, with whom I do it, right? And then we have Bruce, who listens to Freedom Rock.
Freedom to work.
I've got that in my head. Freedom.
Freedom to get here at 7 o'clock in the morning, leave at 9 o'clock at night, 7 days a week, 12 months.
Yeah, that's some freedom, isn't it?
Freedom, I love it.
Some freedom. Well, but that's what we should be working to change. That's why we read books like the Intentional Accountant, to learn how to balance things much better. The whole idea should be that I make more and work less, and that should be our goals. But if you don't have those goals specifically laid out, which is what we talked about last week, get obsessed with your goals, right?
Obsessed,
so,
yes.
Get obsessed with your goals, and your goals should be: I want to work less, I want to earn more, and I want to have better balance in my life so I can focus on my health, so I can, improve myself in every area of life. All those 6 things I talked about at the beginning. I'm glad I had brought those up. So let's talk about networking, because that was the next thing. It came up a lot. Almost everybody who, talked around the horn last week talked about networking, right? So let's come into that part. So I broke the networking up into 2 major areas, online and offline, right? So we talk about online. Definitely, if you're an accountant or bookkeeper looking to grow a business around providing that kind of consulting or training, then you definitely have to become a QuickBooks ProAdvisor. I mean, it's a no-brainer. You get the software included in your membership, and you just have to do it. There's no question. You have to become a ProAdvisor. And against what I frequently share, because I think it's funny about my own experience, you should also get certified.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Because ProAdvisor just means you bought the software.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I joke about it because that was me for years. I never bothered to get certified until I had to, and when I had to, I did. But I don't recommend doing that. I'm a little bit of a unique case, I think, in that I just built a huge YouTube channel so that I didn't need the certification to drive business. But I can tell you there were times when people called me and they asked me, "Are you certified?" And I said no, and I know they didn't, ultimately hire me because of that. I didn't care because I had enough business anyway. But if you're looking to build your business and you have no clients, then you should definitely get certified, because that's going to be a huge selling point for you. Plus, then you get on their website, which is good for SEO. You get to fill out your profile, which makes sure you take the time to do. When you
do it, fill out everything.
Yes, don't leave anything blank, because that's all SEO, and that's an opportunity to point a site that has a lot of traffic over to your site, which is going to raise your site up. Going back to the web presence part, you're going to increase your SEO dramatically just by being a ProAdvisor and having the right links pointing. So don't be lazy. Take the time to fill out that profile.
Seth, I even have a link on my website that links to my ProAdvisor profile.
Mm-hmm. Which is great, but I think it's almost more important to go the other way. Make sure your ProAdvisor profile links to your website. I think I had one on my About.me page also to my ProAdvisor profile. But yes, and the reason for having it on your website pointing there is people can see that, and it gives you the credibility. It lets them know, hey, they're certified as a ProAdvisor by Intuit, which is the company that makes QuickBooks. It kind of carries some weight. Next, join the Sleater group, right? Tim mentioned before, he's signed up. He's coming to the Sleater conference, the Sleater group. And then the next thing on my list, I couldn't put them next to one another, is, of course, the National Advisor Network, or NAN, right? The whole reason I know Tim is because of the National Advisor Network. Because somebody else who reached out to me through Craigslist a long time ago, who was hoping to do some bookkeeping work for me, told me about the Studio City NAN chapter meeting, which Tim was the head of at the time. And I eventually, after he badgered and badgered and badgered me, I eventually said, fine, I'll take time out of my schedule and go. And I went, and that's how I met Tim. So join these groups, because these the Sleater group and the National Advisor Network, as far as I'm concerned, are also required of all bookkeeping and accounting professionals to join, because just the networking aspect, the fact that we can collaborate, the fact that we can, share clients with one another, right? Because there are things I don't have the time to do or don't want to do that I can ask any one of you guys to do for me. Really, really important, because these are networking groups. At the end of the day, that's what they are. These are networking groups with colleagues who essentially do what you do, and it seems counterintuitive because it's like, well, they're competition. Why would I want to network with them? And I can tell you that nothing could be more wrong than thinking that way about these groups.
Absolutely. They're great resources. If you're having a problem, you're stuck somewhere, just don't know what to do, you can go on those organizations and find somebody that's been there and done that and see what solutions they've come up with.
And if you have a toxic client, Sarah can walk you through it.
And to Gina's point, they're only too happy to help.
Yeah. One thing I found is that I do less and less QuickBooks now and more taxes. And there's one ProAdvisor in particular who will refer tax clients to me, and I refer QuickBooks setup to him. It works pretty well.
Got it. So there you go. Perfect example, right? I get a lot of referrals from my colleagues for Excel stuff because I love to do the Excel stuff more than the QuickBooks, right?
You are the king of Excel. Bruce may be the Duke of Taxes, but you are the king of Excel.
Nonprofits.
You are the queen of nonprofits. Yes.
And then that goes, what Gina's saying, I mean, we're joking around, but there's something actually underlying that that's really important to underscore. And we talked about this last week, is specialize in something. What is your specialty? Sarah's nonprofits. I'm Excel, and and then within the world of QuickBooks, I have specific specialties like inventory and contractors and real estate, right? Gina, what's your specialty?
I'm going to say ProAdvisor and Intuit. I mean, I know it's a broad range. My clients are all over the place. I don't have just nonprofits. I do have nonprofits, but it's not specific. I have contractors. Yeah. Pardon?
Your specialty is QuickBooks.
QuickBooks, absolutely.
Would you say it's more professional services, or are you dealing with clients in professional services and in inventory as well, or?
More professional services, I would say. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Dennis, we just heard it from you. You're doing more taxes now than anything else.
It kind of highlights what you get back to in terms of if you specialize, then you can set up systems and procedures and become a lot more efficient, and so you can do value billing because you've already created the systems, and so the value's still there whether it takes you an hour or 10 minutes. So I've been on webinars and they say that that's the best way to get a higher margin is become more specialized.
Yep.
I have an example of a perfect niche. I say the best niche is a half an inch wide and a mile deep. Half an inch wide in terms of barriers to entry, and a mile deep in terms of being underserved. For example, this one guy I know, he has a background in legal services, plus he speaks Japanese. So the intersection of his skill sets is providing Japanese translation services on business, legal documents, and it's kind of an evergreen niche. And he's got two significant barriers to entry: the Japanese language and the legal background. So, to me, that's the way to go. Is if you can find a niche that's underserved that you can dominate, that's where you can really become efficient and become more profitable.
Yep, and just one qualifier there, make sure there's a market for that niche.
That's what I say, a mile deep.
Right.
That part.
Well, it depends if you want to make money or not. Some people don't care. That's not an issue to them.
Right. Like I, for the longest time, have wanted to put out a video series on how to use QuickBooks for drug dealers.
That could be an up-and-coming thing here real soon.
I'm just saying. Look, it's included in our tax code. You have to report illegal activities on your tax return, right?
Yeah, but it may not be illegal going forward.
The state of Washington.
What about the illegal potteries?
The state of Washington.
Yeah, more and more states are coming on board.
They can't keep. So,
I'm sure I would attract, and we talked about knowing who your prospective client is last week too. So I'm sure I would attract some interesting characters if I started putting out videos on how one could use QuickBooks to track the inventory, right, for the various narcotics that they're selling on the streets. Right? And then you have sales reps, right, because you have people on the street actually dealing, slinging the stuff.
Well,
I can go very far with this. So
I would suspect people don't pay taxes. I would guess they're probably on a cash basis.
Bless you, Bruce. But then even there, if they're not reporting it, at least I can help them understand what their potential liability is.
What?
Keep them out of tax jail.
And bribes, right? You can keep track of the bribes you have to pay to keep the IRS. Anyway, I can go on and on. So back to networking. You'll get some great referrals too. The next thing on my list, after you join, I think the three, critically important organizations: become a pro advisor, the Sleater Group, NAN, LinkedIn. LinkedIn is such an area for, I think, for all of us, just about, where every time I go to somebody and I say, "Are you on LinkedIn?" they say yes, and then I say, "Do you know what to do with it?" they say no.
Seth, I want to add for LinkedIn, you showed us that you're allowed to post now. Since I've been actually posting, I have gotten such a huge response. People looking at my stuff, people responding, people commenting, people liking, way more than any other area that I'm in.
LinkedIn is so powerful for traffic. When I look at my stats, and during the times when I'm active on LinkedIn, I get more traffic from LinkedIn than anywhere else, hands down. Well, maybe second to YouTube. That's different.
We should do a hangout on LinkedIn.
We've done them before, but yes, definitely. What I had started to do was I started to develop a course called School of LinkedIn. It's actually, the site's there at schooloflinkedin.com. But right around that time was when I started talking to Eric, and we decided to do schoolofbookkeeping.com. So I decided to put that project aside and focus. Right? Because that's another thing we talked about here, is focus on what you do best and do it really well. I will go back and revisit the School of LinkedIn at some point, but first I wanted to focus on my core competency, which is training in the area of the bookkeeping and accounting and the productivity software apps that we use along those lines. So that's what I did. But Gina, that's a great point. The blog posts. That
what's important especially when you're first starting out, well, anytime. I used to work for a huge firm, and so if I had a question or I didn't know how to do something, you just walked down the hall and you got help. And so something like LinkedIn, with all their groups and their discussions, it's like working for a huge firm. You can ask a question, and it's phenomenal, the people that jump in and help. So.
Yeah. You'll get a ton of answers on LinkedIn, and that's where I started using LinkedIn. Was I went into the groups and I started answering questions, and that got me so much business just by answering people's questions and being helpful. You know what else I should put in here? I did a video on this on our Too Legit to Audit blog. If you just search the web for how to get exposed to 50,000 potential clients a month, the Intuit's own online question and answer community. It's like community.intuit.com or something like that. I spoke to somebody from there who reached out to me who said, "I'd love to get you more involved." And during that conversation, she admitted to me that it's free for people who want to sign up. So anybody who purchases QuickBooks for the first time pretty much gets offered to sign up there for free so they can ask and answer questions. There's 50,000 new users signing up every single month on that site. So if you want to, in addition to LinkedIn groups, the Intuit community. Let me bring up the blog post on our Too Legit to Audit blog. I did a video on it and showed you exactly how it works. So if we go to toolegittoaudit.com.
I like Seth's picture. It's a roadmap, and the road divides. Which section do you go? I love it.
Isn't that great? And the 55 miles an hour looks like it's veering you off to the right. I want to do 100 miles an hour, so I stay straight.
Awesome. Hey guys, I gotta go. I got my staff meeting that I lead in 2 minutes. I'll see you next week.
Don't quit before the miracle happens, Tim.
I'm not quitting. I won't quit you.
Okay, we'll see you soon, Tim.
All right.
So here it is. How to get exposed to 50,000 potential new clients every single month. Come in here and read this post, and of course, most importantly, watch the video. And then somewhere in here, I've got it linked. It's community.intuit.com. And if you click on this link, you'll get into their community. Just keep in mind, 50,000 new users every single month. I wish I had a community that was growing at this rate. It's ridiculous.
That's awesome. Okay, I got it.
So I definitely need to add that one in here in terms of networking with people online. Community.intuit.com.
And there's two. There's one for just pro advisors, and then there's one for the general public. So sometimes if you have some higher level stuff, you want to
Yeah, but what I'm talking about though is how to go in and attract clients, and that's the bigger one, which is the one I've posted. But yes, you're absolutely right, Sarah. And going back to LinkedIn, what I put here is, you can search for CPAs in your area and connect with them on LinkedIn. LinkedIn has some of the most powerful search. Let's go into LinkedIn for a minute. Let's see if I have my LinkedIn here. Where is it? There it is.
Well, just click on the little icon.
I did, but then it gives you like a window. Then you have to click again to actually get to it. So,
okay.
Sign in. Yeah, that part's a little annoying.
We should be putting these links in that link thing with those yellow tags, the showcase.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Brand new.
New feature.
Yeah.
So if I do an advanced search here, look how detailed you can be about a search. I'm going to actually close this. No, I'm going to open it again. I take that back. Do the advanced search so I can go, come on.
Yeah, but you're on premium. I don't think those cheapos are.
No, they have this. I have some additional choices because of premium. But for, so for most of you, you can still use this. You just can't use it all. So if I look in my area code, and I don't care, I'm going to extend it to a 100-mile radius. So at first I get this, but then look what I have down below in terms of how I can, narrow it down. I can narrow it down to just the greater Los Angeles. One of the things I love about this, which is specific to premium, is company size. So I can say I'm looking for CPA firms that have 51 to 200 employees, because at that level they're looking for a training resource very often for people who know QuickBooks. So to Sarah's point, I think it's worth it to pay. It's like $50 a month for LinkedIn Premium. So it's a lot of money. It's $600 a year, but I think it's worth it. If I get one client,
you're hunting for people. See, I'm not hunting for people.
Well, that's part of the networking. Is I'm looking for the people in my area that I want to connect and network with. That's one part of it. I'm also doing the groups. I'm also, and the fact that and quite frankly, the fact that I have a premium account shows up on my profile. So when you go to my profile, somewhere here, I believe you can see the little premium badge. I don't see it now, but usually it shows up there. It's in gold. That lets people know I'm premium. That gives you a little bit of sort of clout. You definitely want to get your connections up over 500, because as you can see, once you're over 500, it shows you have 500 plus. These little details matter. And the other thing is, and if you remember months ago, I had a friend of mine who worked for LinkedIn for years. He doesn't work for them anymore. Doing this, on the Hangout, he was talking to us about LinkedIn. One of the things he said that I think he had to say because he worked for LinkedIn, I would disagree with, because he said that you shouldn't be just adding on connections, just to add them on. And to some extent, that's true. You don't want to just add on anybody, but you do want to add on as many connections as you can that are relevant to what you do, because every time you add another connection, you're now second-degree connection to all of their connections that you weren't before. So you keep expanding your network as you increase your number of connections on LinkedIn. The other thing is, edit your profile. If you're starting to do the posts like Gina mentioned, like I'm doing, make sure they show up right at the top, because it's eye-catching. Make sure you have an image that's eye-catching associated with each post, because as you can see, and I love my Homer Simpson X-ray. It's like my favorite.
Where do you get your images?
What?
Do you have where do you get your stock images?
Google search. I steal them from Google, I'll be honest. I just do a Google search and I take it. If somebody asks me to take it down, I'll take it down right away. But so far I haven't had a problem. So LinkedIn, definitely, I think very important. It's largely unexplored, and I think it's worth focusing more attention and effort on.
I wish they had better searches within their group discussions. There's no way.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes you read a discussion and you really, it'd be nice to be able to bookmark it.
Well, it wasn't designed for that, but it's being used for that, and they need to wise up.
Which brings us to the next point, the next thing that on my list was the Abo group, which we have here on Facebook, which, by the way, has a really good search feature. A lot of people, I think, don't notice this little magnifying glass here, but I was recently searching. I knew that a very long time ago we had conversations about join.me,
Yeah?
So I went in here and I typed join.me.
I didn't know that was there.
Yeah, and it works really well. It's going to take a second because my bandwidth is being taxed right now, but it brings up. Oh, you got to be kidding me! I swear to God, this worked.
That's because it's live. It would do that.
This will search for remote access instead. I guarantee you, this will come up.
Okay.
I may have run into the same thing. Maybe it didn't recognize the join.me. But here we are, from July 24th, that's more recent, from January 6th, right? Wants to know, how can I use remote? Here's from Hartley. So the search in the Facebook groups actually works really well in my experience.
Ooh, I wish it worked like that just on the regular page.
So, and going back to the outline, join our ABO group right here on Facebook. We pretty much let everyone in. And if you're going to come in and spam, you're going to get one shot at that, and then we're going to kick you out. I kick people out every day for spamming us. The first time I just kick you out. The second time I kick you out and remove you. So just come in and use it properly, and it's not hard. It's not rocket science. Real quick, because we're past 9 o'clock, but the last part I think doesn't really necessarily need as much attention. Networking with people offline. And the thing I want to underscore about this part is that oftentimes you're going to take it right back online with people. But I think it's important. I think the face-to-face, we've talked about this, the face-to-face is really important. The first one I suggest checking out is meetup.com, because you can search right in your own area meetup groups that share similar interests, and you can go join them and show up at them. And then you bet you're going to exchange business cards, and then you're going to connect online. And they're going to be on your About.me page, and you're going to tell them about About.me, and you're going to say, this nut job of an accountant that I know online told me about About.me, and it's really cool. And then we talked about the networking groups when we went around the horn last week. We have Latip, we have BNI. I was personally involved with a group called EdgeUp, which I love because he focuses a lot of emphasis on LinkedIn. And if there's not an EdgeUp group in your area, let me know, and I will put you in touch with the guy who owns EdgeUp. His name is Bob Friedenthal, and he will work with you to start a group in your area if you want. And then we talked about this last week too, joining your Chamber of Commerce. It's another networking group essentially, but it's a networking group that's really, I think, more focused around plugging you into your local community. So it's really, really important to be in your Chamber of Commerce. It's really important to be known by other people who have businesses in your city or town or wherever you live. I think Chamber of Commerce is really important. I did it for about 3 years. I was a member of the Burbank Chamber, and then I just got so busy that I didn't have time, so I just didn't bother to renew. But it really helped me. Other collaborative tools. Again, didn't get too much to go into much detail here anyway, but Zoho Connect is a collaborative tool that's almost like your own little intra-social network where you can collaborate with your employees and keep on top of who's doing what. Trello, we've done Hangouts on Trello. Zoho Projects, we've done Hangouts on Zoho Projects. Podio is a Citrix product that you'll see in the Citrix link I referred you to at the beginning, but that's their specific project management. It's a lot like Zoho Projects, but I think, who was it? Nancy's friend who's been on here, it's been a long time, Roxanne, had suggested Podio a long time ago. And then Smartsheet. So Sarah, see, I didn't forget Smartsheet. You know, Smartsheet is kind of like the new hot kid on the block to me that I love playing with. I know Sarah's drunk the Kool-Aid. She's wasted on it. So Smartsheet's definitely a place to go. I have my newest client I'm using Smartsheet with to keep track of the statements that I have and that I need from them in order to get the reconciliations all done. And I've got these projects set up where I can initiate a request to get the statements. They'll get an email from Smartsheet as soon as I've made the change. Then he gets the email. He knows exactly what to do. He goes in. He drops the statements into Dropbox, which is what we're using to share files, and so all of it comes together beautifully when you're using something like Smartsheet to keep track of everything. You can use it to keep track of everything above. So it's a great tool. As far as I'm concerned, it's required of you to check out Smartsheet if you're starting, building, and growing a bookkeeping or accounting practice. We're out of time. Does anybody want to say anything before we wrap up?
I just want to say the last things, the collaborative tools are more one-on-one, that you're collaborating with your clients, as opposed to the other ones above that are more like the general population.
Like once you have a client versus, yeah.
Once, like LinkedIn, where you're out there public, the collaborative tools are more with you and your client or you and associate.
Correct. Yeah, that's what. Yeah, what I listed here as the other collaborative tools are the tools that let you collaborate with people that you're already working with. Absolutely, they're tools that are going to let you collaborate within your organization and with your clients. Yep, and the remote software, this stuff, which is also sort of collaborative in nature, but this is what allows you to get access. That's an important distinction. So, like I said, I'm going to be developing a course on this. Basically, I'm going to take pretty much every line item from this outline and do at least one, if not a series of videos on them to teach people how they work, how to use them, and how it can all be used to build and grow your bookkeeping practice. So, as always, I hope everybody found this helpful. And
absolutely.
I look forward to seeing you. Don't forget Avalara on Gina's Hangout today, 2:30 Pacific, 5:30 Eastern. Avalara sales tax. It'll solve all of your sales tax headaches. You'll never have to worry about sales tax ever again.
Absolutely.
Ever.
As long as you have Avalara.
As long as you have Avalara. 4:30 Central. Thanks, Brendan. I always skip Central. I'm always like, look, here's Pacific. There's the West Coast. There's the East Coast. In between, do the math. Because I always get confused between Mountain and Central. I didn't even know there was a Mountain time zone.
Don't feel alone. I'm in the Central part.
And on our side of the country, it's happy hour when we start that hangout.
Sarah's got her margaritas in hand, ready to go.
And we are happy.
The happy group.
All right. So we'll see you all on the other side.
Have a nice weekend.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.